welcome back to It's a Snake's Life. Today I'm going to talk about spraying down your substrate. So I'm sure you've been told that spraying down your substrate can increase the humidity in your enclosure. But what you don't want to do is spray down the substrate and just leave it soaking wet, because this can lead to things like scale rot. So I'm going to show you how I spray down my substrate. So this substrate here is a mixture of Zoomed's Eco Earth, which is a cocoa fibre substrate, and ProRep Cocoa Coarse, which is just a cocoa husk, and that's the larger pieces here. So obviously this is a substrate that can hold moisture. Unlike Aspen, if you're using Aspen you don't want to spray that down because Aspen can mould quite easily. But if you look at this right now, it is actually really dry and it's very dusty underneath as well, which is mainly the cocoa fibre. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a spray bottle like this one with some fresh water in it, and then I'm just going to give a generous spray down on the top layer so that that top layer is nice and damp. Okay, but then I'm not just going to leave this like this, because obviously this is now wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix that in. I don't want a wet top layer, and you can tell which bits are wet because they sort of start to clump together a bit, and whereas the dry stuff, if you find more dry stuff at the bottom, you can see this is just dusty. Okay, so you can actually open your substrate up a little bit if you like and spray the underneath as well. And you just want to mix it all in so you're not just leaving it wet. The idea is this substrate, this type of substrate, absorbs moisture and it holds onto it. And the idea is you want it to, obviously like I say, you don't want the substrate to be wet, but you want it to be holding on to moisture, because it will slowly release it into the air, and then this will keep the humidity in the enclosure at a steady high. And that's basically it. You can see this now, it's still a little bit dusty, but not as much. So, and I have actually let this dry out quite a bit before doing this video, so if you do it more often you don't need to do it this much. But and obviously you need a hygrometer to make sure your humidity is where it is. Don't just go spraying it down willy-nilly, just make sure that you actually need to raise the humidity first. So this isn't wet at all, but it's also not as dry and dusty anymore. I could maybe spray it down a bit more, but I can feel in the substrate, you know, it feels more squishy if you like, because there's moisture in it, but it doesn't feel wet. And so that's it basically, just a quick video on how to spray down your substrate, or how I spray down my substrate anyway. Yeah, hopefully it was helpful. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.